Okay, we'll call the meeting, Finance Committee, August 8th, 9:02 a.m. Call the roll.
Alt.
Here.
Bowers. Curtis.
Yes.
Sticknot. Young.
Yes.
Johnson. McTaggart.
Yes. Call the meeting to order. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
Yes.
Mr. Young, seconded by Mr. Alt. All in favor? Aye. Move to public comments. Any public comments? Not, we'll go to Craig Steffen, Minor Munyon, on the liability and general insurance update.
I gave the invoice to Amanda this morning.
Okay.
And the declaration pages are in there as well. If there's any questions on anything, just let me know. And I don't have any knowledge of any claims that have been made over the last month.
So this is for the
Internet stuff.
internet, the cyber?
Cyber.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, so do we need to do anything on that then, or we're good, or?
No, we've already approved the
Right.
cyber.
Right.
Right.
So we don't need
We
to,
just have to.
no action, we just need to approve the claims or whatever? Yeah, okay. Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Susie does not appear to be here, so we'll skip over Susie Werner and the group insurance, and we'll go to department head reports. Kurt?
At my budget hearing, I had told you we were looking at some information from DevNet, and I gave you a proposal of what they said they would charge in order to get our information online. And how that would work is you just, on the county website, you would go to a link, and then that would take you directly to, that link would take you to their website and all our information. So that's just for reference purposes. The other thing is, hopefully by Monday, we will have our first tax distribution.
Okay. What, can you remind me, and I'm sure I can find it if I dig in this book for a little bit, but what were you thinking it was gonna cost? It was like 7,500?
Well, that's what I, up my budget.
The number you
to,
threw in
yeah.
there, yeah, okay.
So like I said.
It's
the
less
first
than what
year-
you had, yeah, okay.
And I don't know, they wouldn't explain why there's so much in the first year, but then, like I said, the next 4 years cost a lot less.
Okay, well, we'll need to take that when we start working through how to get the budget balanced and stuff and get it figured out, but it seems to me like something to help us get in the 21st century here. So I hope we can, I assume we can figure out a way to get it done. So thank you for getting that together. Anything else? Okay, thank you. You have anything?
Yeah, a little bit on the revolving loan. We finally got the thing all signed and checks all exchanged. Excuse me, that was on the 15th. Actually, we had our meeting set up for the 13th, and John Schur and Lori Heath and I were sitting right there waiting to head over to T&D. And at the last minute, about 20 minutes before we were supposed to go over there, T&D canceled out. So we moved it ahead 2 days, and that worked finally. And the city showed up, or John Allhands showed up that same morning then. So both loans, the city's at 250 and the county's at 300. Both were exchanged that day. Lori Heath worked really hard on it, and I thanked her profusely, but she left Iroquois Fed. So Chip Hazelbrink, he asked Bill Cronus to take her spot, and Bill jumped right in and went through all the paperwork to make sure that there wasn't anything that was wrong. I spoke with John about it, and that seemed okay, but I wanted to mention it because there was a comment previously that the board didn't know ahead of time who was going to be on that committee. So that's the only change. It would be Lori Heath, who was left, and Bill Cronus, who would be taking her place.
Okay,
And they did make their first payment on August 1st.
That's right. It was only 2 weeks from when they got the money. They made their first. It's on an automatic payment.
Yeah.
So like an ACH. So that should be good.
change? Okay, so as far as the committee and all that stuff, I assume they'll bring that up at the full board or whatever during the appointments, or I presume. Probably need to make sure that's on the agenda or whatever, so for those, for the full board, but, okay. Thank you very much. Lisa?
I have resolutions and deeds for 7 parcels, that the county, well, Ballengers have sold on behalf of the county. So, I usually take these to tax, and I did take them to tax Tuesday, but we had a couple of questions on their report, some words that they used on there that were different than usual, so we just waited, and Brian got a hold of, Mike Ballinger, and he explained what the wording was, so they're fine. So, I just wanna get approval. I think Mike's just finishing up, some last minute things before he's gone. So, with approval of these resolutions and deeds, it'll put these 7 parcels back on the tax rolls. So,
Sounds
just
good.
ask for approval of them.
Okay. We just need to have a motion to approve that. Someone,
Put them back on the tax roll.
motion to approve these 7 parcels and put them back on the tax roll.
That's the
That was Sherry's motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Alt? Take the,
Alt.
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Curtis.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Johnson. McTaggart.
yes.
That's it.
Anything else? Okay. Eric?
Which one?
Pick an Eric.
Any year.
Any Eric will work.
We're still waiting on a notice of grant funding from the grant that I've applied for. And still expected to be at $133,000 go towards ETSB. I did receive notification they're going to be doing a 3rd round of Next Gen 911 grants. Notice of funding opportunity should come out in the December timeframe. I am intending on putting some more into that, more on that when I get into the budget part of it, so you all know what's going on and why. I have hired a now 10th employee temporarily because I have one that is leaving my employee at the end of September. This is a perfect opportunity for me to be able to get enough training in for that employee, so there's no overtime requirements transitioning in. So with any luck, everything will go smoothly, no overtime, and just one person out, one person in.
Now, if all job transitions could be like that around
You're
here.
telling me.
Okay, good. And we got your budget stuff here in a little bit, yeah. Okay, so we'll talk to you in a little bit. Mr. Stacy?
Not too much financially, just a quick note on the budget that I proposed to you guys last week. Just a reminder that every year I get a non-competitive grant for my EMA program, the EMPG through IEMA, which is 50% reimbursable. Everything except for $400 within the budget that I have asked for is applies to that grant. So $34,400 of what I've asked for applies to that grant, which means we could be reimbursed for up to half of that for all respect. So I didn't mention that during my budget proposal. Besides that, that's all I have financially.
So you're applying for this, or?
It's something I get every year.
It's okay,
It's non-competitive.
okay, very good. Heidi?
Hi. Well, as far as financially, with the health department, the state has been kind of Johnny on the spot with getting grants out this year. For example, last year, we didn't get our preschool vision and hearing grant until March. It wasn't approved until April, and the grant year ended June 30th. This year, we have received every grant, have completed our applications and submitted them for every grant that is for the state fiscal year, July 1st through June 30th for fiscal year 2020. We do have 2 grants coming out in September that are October 1st through September 30th grants. But otherwise, we're caught up with grants, which is a good thing because you can't submit EDFs, expenditure documentation forms, for that grant money without a signed, approved grant. So last year, we were performing a lot of grant services and didn't have signed contracts back, knowing that the state kept sending us letters saying that it will all be retroactive. You can bill, once you get the approval, you can bill back to July 1st. But payments weren't timely, obviously. So we don't anticipate that being a problem for fiscal year 2020, and that's a good thing.
Okay, and we will come back for the budget stuff with you, or that's something else. Tom,
I don't have anything.
you're just here for the great entertainment that is the finance committee?
He's gonna talk to Derek.
Oh, did you get a chance to talk to Derek about what was that, the at-home surveillance?
I was out of town last week.
That's fine.
So I was hoping to get a text back from him now, so on the way down here.
For September or whatever would be probably
The
fine.
issue was the revenue was in my budget.
You're getting the money and he's paying it out, and we were just,
So I'll just put the expense in mine,
okay,
and I'll submit that updated budget
yeah, that's
Monday,
fine.
Tuesday.
That's fine, yep, that'd be great.
I could talk to him, but that seems to be the reasonable thing to do
Yeah,
anyway. I don't think.
I guess it doesn't matter where it's going as long as
Yeah,
it just seems like we should see it together. but
Yeah.
It's not a major issue. Okay, very good.
Mike, can I add
Yes.
one more thing?
Yes, Ken.
Previously, I think I remember Sherry mentioned it, that we didn't, follow normal procedure or whatever you would describe it as for the first, loan committee. The booklet or the guidelines say that the person, the county board chairman, the person in my position, and the person in the state's attorney position are in there, and two members of financial institutions. We also have John Hutchison from Airport Federal, that we never went through that process that you just mentioned, so would it be appropriate to do both of those names? Yeah, John Hutchison from Airport Farmers Bank.
I guess so, yeah, we probably have
We need to, before we put that on there, we just need to review that part of it so that it's worded correctly, if that's exactly how it's, but either way, we can take care of it, it's not a big deal.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then I guess we'll go to budget hearings. And Dee, I think you're up first, ICPHD.
Okay, well, I need to apologize to the finance committee because the Board of Health meeting was scheduled for August 7th, which was last night. And due to a lack of quorum, our meeting has been rescheduled to Monday, August 12th at 6 p.m. here at the administrative building in the County Board. So until the budget is reviewed and approved, I don't have anything official to give you.
Okay,
I apologize for that.
no, it's okay. We'll put it on the agenda for next month. I think that'd be fine.
I had talked to Jill about it, so she was aware and told her that I will have, if the board approves it on Monday night, then I'll have it to her Tuesday morning.
Okay, that's fine. We'll look at it in September. This isn't the last discussion about the budget. So, thank you. And Mr. Raymond would be up.
ETSB last night did not approve their budget yet. This is obviously the first time that they've had an opportunity to see all of it, so there was a lot of review and discussion. There was one suggestion within the actual budget itself. They are proposing equal shares when it comes to the funding of joint dispatch between the city of Watseka, county, and themselves. This year, based on the numbers that I have, salaries, this also includes a buffer for overtime, $475,658.52. There was a worksheet that's also included with this that I did not include when sending out this packet. This was, the first one that you're looking is revision A, the very first page. This was initially what I presented to the ETSB. I present them both copies of joint dispatch and the ETSB budget. Number one, because they supervise me, I feel that it's necessary for them to know exactly what I'm proposing and what's going into the county's budget as well. If you go to the next page, revision B is where that proposal, or at least suggestion of the 155 across the three, I guess for lack of better words, main players. And then the final 4 pages is what has been presented to ETSD. I presented revision A and B to them last night. And then after the proposal of the 155,000 for each of them, I created revisions C and D, which is essentially A and B, just with a different amount in there for the contribution to joint dispatch. Additionally, I'm requesting $125,000 to go into either or. It really depends on which budget is approved. If revision A is taken care of in the joint dispatch, the $125,000 actually goes towards the telecommunicator's salary. So in its reality, the county would be ultimately liable for $120,000, and then $125,000 would come from the public safety tax dollars. The city of Watseka would be responsible for $120,000, and ETSB would be responsible for $100,000. Now, the reason for this is we have some significant upgrades that are coming down for ETSB, and we've got to find some resources for it. We have some reserves, which is why if you take a look at the bottom line number when you get down to ETSB, they're significantly in the red. Now, there is also the $133,000 that I was talking about. I'm waiting on notification that we're going to actually be getting those numbers. There's also the second round grant, which is also going to include a recording system, which is going to cost approximately $22,000, a GIS mapping, which is absolutely required for Next Gen 911. We have no choice but to do it. At its highest right now, I got a really rough quote. It's going to be $150,000. The good news is there's grant money, but we're going to have to pay up front and wait for that grant money to come back. Now, if the grant goes the same way that this one that I just recently applied, I'm still waiting for some of that funding to show up and letters saying that we're going to get it. We're also looking at a new CAD system, which part of that 133 is a CAD, but we're also going to have to invest about $73,000 of our own cash for the other half of it, which is mainly personnel related portions. So for example, like a project manager. These types of projects are extensive and very, very heavy. And the last part that I'm also trying to get through, because this is also something that's necessary for us, not Next Gen 911, but not just necessary for communications, it's a new radio console system in the 911 center itself. The one we have is at least 10 years plus, if not 15 plus. That is going to cost us, at least right now, an approximation of about $200,000. If we go for all of that at once, that's the main reason for it. Revision B is the $155,000, and then a request from the ETSB to have $125,000 to them from the public safety tax money. Again, so we can go through all of those same upgrades that I just discussed. Questions? Sorry, I threw a lot of information at you all at one time.
So the big thing in all these revisions in the 911 ETSB is the differing amounts of these projects. Am I understanding that right? It's really this purchase of equipment line's the main thing?
Actually, that's the only thing that's really different for the most part,
right.
Is where some of the funds are going. Revisions C and D is ETSB paying $155,000 towards the county for joint dispatch. Revisions A and B is an amount. The $100,000 is going to joint dispatch because the public safety tax money would then go into joint dispatch for salaries. Really the difference is about $200,000. It's whether or not we purchase a radio system, because the rest of it we don't have much of a
Okay,
choice.
so there's a version of equipment that's 340 and one that's 350, right? 540, sorry.
340 and 540.
Correct. And take me through what the 340 is.
The 340 is all of those same upgrades minus the radio system. So it is GIS mapping.
Okay.
It is a new CAD system, which stands for computer aided dispatch. phone recording system. Which at the end of the day, a lot of this is going to be taken care of by a grant. And then the 500 is all of those same three plus a radio system.
So, okay, in the back. So 200 for a radio, new radio system, okay. And then the, whatever that law is, the
The next gen 911.
next gen 911. This stuff, the 340, is required to be compliant, or these are just a want list?
GIS is an absolute period must,
Okay.
no choice, has to get done.
And how much of the 340 is that?
That one is about $150,000. I got a quote that says between 100 to 150. It's a really rough quote. They don't have enough information to really make a good solid answer yet.
Okay.
So I just shot it straight to the 150.
And then what about the computer-aided dispatch?
Computer-aided dispatch is something that we're currently getting grant funding for. I'm waiting on that part to come to us right now.
Yeah.
We get about 72 to 73. The whole quote of the cheapest one that I have was 167,000 and change. So it's, since we're getting grant funding, we kind of got to put our foot forward at this point. Or at least
So
the
you have,
expectation.
out of this 340, you're assuming the whole 167?
I'm putting the whole 167 in there just for ease sake, because the grant funding is going to be sitting in
Right.
our bank account by that point, and it will just have to be tracked on the accounting side.
And this is required for next gen too, or?
Yeah, it's something that's going to be necessary. Number one, the system that we have is at least 20 years. There's been quite a few upgrades. The present system that we're on, well, is not, and Emergitech is promising us that they're not going to sunset it. Their focus is on a lot of necessary upgrades, not bells and whistles that would be, for lack of better words, nice and easy.
And then the phone recording thing.
The recording system is something that we are already compliant with, but since there is grant funding available to it, there are a few things that we do need with our recording system. First and foremost, the server in there is about 7 years old as is. The hard drives themselves are going to need to be replaced and updated, which is going to be about $1,000 to update that. But the fact that a lot of the materials, they're suggesting, at least from the vendor side of it, that it should be upgraded about 5 years. I'm not necessarily sure if I agree with that, because I've seen servers last a whole lot longer, but that is their suggestion. And since there's grant funding available to it for next gen, it's nothing but a benefit to us.
Does the grant funding pay 100%?
Not necessarily 100%. It really depends on the parts that are people related. So for example, I'll pick on our CAD system where we had about $72,000 that's software and hardware. The other half of that is a project manager, people coming in to do the installations, their travel. And it makes a big difference as to what it looks like at the end of the grant.
What do you go to, is that federal or state?
It's at the state level.
So there's about 18,000 then, if I'm doing the math right here on the,
The recording system
roughly.
is about 22,000. It's like 21,540 or something like that. I rounded some numbers for buffers' sake.
okay. And then 200,000 for the new radio system. Okay.
Again, that's a rough estimate. I'm hoping to get it closed sooner rather than later, so September's meeting I can have some better numbers for everybody.
And then take me back, so there, I've lost track of this, but the NIDA had done a bunch of, I don't know, we spent 350,000 for this next gen stuff, if I remember, the number was roughly 350,000. And now we basically have another 300 plus thousand. those grants that you've been applying for, is that a lot, any of that going to retroactively, I guess, out of all the money that was, all that stuff we bought,
It's
I want to say it was like $350,000.
Yeah, and
And one of the things we talked about is that, this is going back to maybe even before you started, that the state police had told me and Anita and I that I don't know why you guys are buying that stuff, because there's grants available for that. And to your credit, looks like we're trying to get grants to cover this stuff now. But even the stuff that was bought, the original 350, which was before your time, he had indicated to us that, well, you guys need to look into the grants because you can probably retroactively get money to pay for a lot of that stuff you'd already bought. And I guess, where are we at on that, or have we done anything with that, or what do you?
I guess I'm not in the loop with some of that, so I think we might need to have an offline discussion, see if we can find some notes or something backwards to go see exactly what was purchased. I can tell you the phone system that we have, that was $180,000, Emergitech phone system, which is next gen compliant. So right there's a good chunk of what
And I don't know the
we
exact
were
number.
discussing.
We have to, yeah.
There are retroactive grants for certain things, specifically anything that is next gen. There may have been other upgrades that were necessary just for the 911 center to function that may have been part of that as well.
Yeah.
That's a best guess.
And I was
without-
remembering it as there was over, and again, this has been a little while ago, so, and I need to look back, but there was, and again, it was before you were here, so I don't expect you to know or remember, but there was a large chunk of money, and I want to say it was over $300,000 that was supposedly to get us compliant with next gen. And
The biggest moving target with next gen right now is, while they have a generalized idea of what they want, it's still a moving target yet. They've got meetings that they've been continually doing, and some things end up getting changed midway through. So it is somewhat of a double-edged sword to hurry up and do it right at the beginning. But now that we're drawing closer and closer to July of 2020, they're not just going to immediately flip on the switch by any means, but they are going to roll it out in a staged part. Now that we're getting closer and closer to that, they've really kind of zeroed a lot of this into, this is what you need, this is what you need. I have still to this day not seen a generalized list, or at least some type of layman's terms list, this is what you absolutely must have. Like specifically this type of software, this type of hardware. And I don't think I'll ever see that. It's a
If
lot
I
of it is
recall,
going to the vendors.
Anita and I spoke to this, he was down at Springfield, and whoever on the state police that was part of this,
Mhm.
the whole concept of this next generation stuff, and he was, because we were asking him, what do we actually have to do, and this date's coming up of July of 2020, and again, I'm doing this from memory from over a year ago, but I remember distinctly his comment was, well, you guys don't have to be compliant by July of 2020. The hub needs to be in place that you guys can connect to by 2020 was the goal. And then each 911, ETSB, whatever thing.
There's going to be a rollout period.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like, that's when it has to be, the state was mandated to have this available for an organization like yours to connect to it, but it didn't mean that you had to connect on the first day.
You
And-
would have to
and-
connect on the first day, no. Most likely what's going to happen is they're going to roll that out. I'm expecting they'll either start from the bottom and work their way up, or start from the top and work their way down, physically of the state, or some combination thereof. They're going to make sure that everybody is next gen compliant before they roll you in. But for the most part, you need to be ready for 2020, July of 2020.
Okay.
They're
And I
not
think,
saying you're going to flip the switch on July 1st. We might have a few months leeway, but it's not going to be a whole bunch of stuff. There's a lot of deadlines, especially, for example, I'll pick on GIS. There's some deadlines that have to get done now. Like, I think the first deadline that I have is October. I've already flat told them it's not going to happen. I'll catch it up as quick as I can, but it's not gonna happen for October. I'm sure there's gonna be some other people that are in my particular realm just the same. But the goal is, here's the timelines that we're looking, so they can get it as close to it, because what they're gonna be doing is they're gonna be paying for both the legacy system and the next gen system. So they're gonna launch you onto that next gen system as quick as they can, otherwise they're just gonna be losing more and more money.
So with all the estimates that you've gotten for this,
Mhm.
was the state gracious enough to get some bids for you guys to go off of? I mean, do they have a state bid that you're able to capitalize on, or do you have to do all of this on your own? And do you only have one?
I've only got
bid?
one at the time because I just needed a ballpark
Sure,
figure
sure,
to
no,
get
I
us in.
understand.
What's gonna happen at the end of the day is this is still gonna go in front of ETSB. All of these expenses are high dollars, so they're more than 30. They're gonna have to go to bid, period, regardless if I have one quote or 10 quotes in front of me, it's still gonna have to go out for
You would
bid,
have thought
so.
the state would have,
Well, and this
lined
was,
that
I,
up for you. so
and
you
again,
could-
this might even been before you were here, Eric, but I remember there was a lot of talk about this back when we were talking to the state police and all that stuff, was that GIS was mandated by the state, was it not, or something like that? We were the last county, I think, in the state to do it. Not saying that's our benchmark of being compliant, but the argument on the we don't want to spend money side of the fence was, okay, Chicago having better 911 probably was more at the top of the list for the state than Iroquois County with our 28,000 people. That's nothing, no, just saying from a,
No disrespect.
okay, yeah, I mean, we're all in this together. I mean, and it's all of our community, so I don't mean it in that way, but that's why I guess I was talking about that. Do we have to be on July 2020 or
It could be-
2021? I don't know, or
it could be a
2025,
6-month rollout.
you know?
It could be an 8, it could be a year.
I guess
It's really gonna have to see
one of-
what's gonna happen with their test groups to figure out what's gonna happen. Cindy Borelli's, who's the 911 state administrator, her words right now are kick the tires, just see what's gonna happen, get a few test groups, and then begin the rollout once they find out these test groups are doing okay.
That's right. And I think the feeling of a lot of people on the board at that time were that, especially we talked with people from the state, here we were out, and again, maybe it's the wrong equipment, maybe not what I'm talking about wasn't all the equipment. Some of it was a phone line that was needed, and I'm sure I don't have every minute detail and understand it fully, but the feeling was that why are we at the forefront of pushing to get all this stuff done when, yeah, hey, we don't have money, and I distinctly remember having that conversation with the guy from state police. He said, well, most counties haven't even talked about this yet. I mean, and this was in the last 2 years, and the fact that you're doing that, yeah, you're ahead of the curve. And it was kind of like, well, maybe that's good, but maybe we don't need to be at the head of the curve, you know?
Sometimes that is a double-edged sword.
No, and I'm not saying I 100% know. I'm just, I guess, playing devil's advocate to the whole idea of it. That obviously at some point we got to do this. I get that, but it is a lot of money, and it just seems like being clear on when we actually have to do it. I'm not saying we need to get down to the wire and have the state threatening us, but if I'd like to know where the other counties and municipalities are at and all those kind of things, and are we ahead of them, behind them? And
I would
if there
say
was any
we're
clarity on
probably
that,
towards the middle last of the pack right now.
okay,
There's quite a few counties that are, at least in my opinion, from what I've been seeing, the way that a lot of things are going, they've got quite a few nice colorful graphics that's green, yellow, red. And there's quite a bit of the state, at least for GIS purposes, there's a lot of green. There's 100 and so many PSEPs around in Illinois, and there's a lot of green. At least for GIS purposes. We're obviously one of the few that are red, because right now this is not something that has been totally begun yet. One of the bigger challenges that I have is GIS is not my skill set. So I have to farm this work out to somebody else.
It would have been kind of nice if they would have made them so that they could go together, the GIS that we already have.
We have some GIS. A lot of the 911 stuff is a lot more specific.
Right. Me too.
There is 5 requirements for GIS, or 5 total requirement layers for GIS. One is city street or road center lines, site structure address points, PSAP boundary, which is our county, emergency service boundaries, which includes at least fire, police, and EMS, and provisioning boundary. Those are the absolute minimums that we must have. Most of that 150,000 is for the road center lines. We do have a GIS with our zoning and planning. While it covers some of it, especially with parcels, some of the stuff may need to be cleaned up. For example, road center lines, that would not be something that would be specific to them. They're worried about the parcel and legal descriptions.
Well, because, you know, Joel's going through the same thing, so it's like, you see where I'm at? There's. the
We're
big
actually
difference
using the same company.
As Joel.
I didn't even check with them. I didn't know that they were even doing anything until I was on the phone with them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we've been dealing with Joel Moran, some of this." So they have some
Yeah,
data
this is-
already for us, which
From what he showed us. it's
does not put
okay.
us beyond the 8 ball.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll table it for there and your meeting with the,
ETSB, obviously, you are all welcome to attend the next meeting, which is going to be September the 4th at 5 p.m. I would definitely encourage you to come in for a productive conversation.
so that's the night before our next
Correct.
finance meeting. Okay.
So, for purposes of this discussion, time
Lot
is
of
going to
us,
be
yeah.
a little rough.
Okay. Okay, anybody else have anything before we let them go?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Finance. Jill.
Just that first sentence right there. I'm gonna-
Okay, we'll go 110 general fund, 510 finance IT.
As far as salaries go, I just left it at the standard 2% for now. We had talked about discussing that, and I had gotten you and I'll make sure I email it to you.
Yeah.
The only salary I wanted to talk about was the deputy clerk salary. Right now, she is part-time. I would like to request to make her full-time, and part of those reasonings being, with animal control phone calls, whether it be the public, warden, or officers, we're averaging about 15 a day. Also, pay now claims that come in, such as the BP from probation and sheriff, the way that they accept when they receive our payment, we have to literally, as soon as they receive it, it gets turned around, it gets paid out right away. And also the assistants, we also try to assist with the treasurer's office as much as possible when they have vacations or their busy periods such as tax season. And it's gonna be about a little over 10 to 11,000 increase for that to make her full-time. As far as the next couple lines, they remain the same. Systems expense, we went down a little bit, we're only expected to replace 2 computers in the finance office. And then again, I'm waiting on Michael to give me any other recommendations on what we need to look at as far as that goes. Next couple lines are the same. We get down to mileage and travel, education and dues, I went ahead and decreased those. Service contracts, I went ahead and increased those just a tad. I'm hoping that with the weekly visits from area-wide that won't be necessary, but just to give us a little bit of leeway with some of the projects that are coming up, such as, you know, the DevNet and GIS projects. The other 2 lines, as far as maintenance and repairs and contingent, I left those the same.
Is this, why is the year-to-date on the service contracts so, I mean, why are we trending so far under that number that we've,
The 11,000?
yeah, like you're showing 11,000
Mm-hmm,
and the last handful of years, other than 16, we were well over 30.
mm-hmm.
Is there,
Um,
I thought we were going higher, I guess.
no, we've been going lower since
Okay.
in the past year and a half, it's been trending lower, so that's a good thing, and like I said,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that with these weekly visits, and we have a system in place to where anybody who needs any type of service, they are to email Amanda or myself, and we print them out and, give them to the technician in order of, importance. So hopefully that continues to go down
He's coming
on Tuesdays.
every Tuesday.
And what you see on the claims report, that's for 2 months worth of visits.
Okay, well, that's what I was, yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
think that was that much.
No,
Okay.
it's 2 months worth of visits on
Okay.
there.
So there's, okay. Yeah, so that's only 11,000 a month, or sorry, a year is for their showing up. Is that right then?
It'd be about 23,000 for the year.
See that little modest.
Okay, sorry,
Yeah.
yep,
But 11,000, you know, for any other issues that may come up, as much as the smart watt visit that they just had to make, so.
okay. All right.
Okay.
Anybody got any questions on any of that? Yes.
What would Lacey's salary be then?
It would be per contract with the AFME, so she would be at, right now she's at 1149, I believe, and, so, what's the next, 11,
She'd get the 2.5.
she'd get the 2.5 increase with, which would be, you know, the next step for the contract.
Okay, any other questions? We'll go to county board.
All right, so for county